main screens going on here, so hopefully I can click and point to different ones as I'm using them. But normally in class we would have done a probable passage all together, and we'll do it tomorrow instead, of a novel we're going to be reading together in class. And then we are also going to make a probable passage in groups or partners, kind of depending. We have a small class, so probably just all 4 of you working together on a short nonfiction article that Mrs. O'Connor picked out on UFOs, which I think is really cool. And so today I'm just going to walk you through another example to kind of remind you of how a probable passage works. And I picked a super short one. So this is a real life one that, for me anyway, and I haven't read it before. So it's going through the steps, and it's a little scary for me because I haven't read this piece ahead of time. But what it is in my Modern American Literature class, which I have 7th and 8th period blocked together, we read a short speech. Actually, it's kind of long. It was like 13 pages, by a guy named Alexander Stephens, and it had on the document that he was the vice president of the Confederacy, because we're reading stuff out of the Civil War. But I don't know much about him other than he was the vice president of the Confederacy, so I decided to find a little encyclopedia article about him. And first I'm going to do a probable passage because, in my opinion, reading the encyclopedia is not that exciting, and it also is going to help me kind of structure my ideas of what could happen. So the first step of a probable passage is to scroll through, but don't actually read it, and pick out words that could be your characters, your setting, your problems, and any unknown words, so you can define them before you even start reading. And you want no more than 10 words, otherwise it gets to be way too complicated because there's obviously a lot that could be going on. So just scrolling through here, I see that his name, so he's going to be a character. So I'm going to put Alexander. You're probably reading it while I'm typing, aren't you? H. Stephens, and it just has 2 names, but they're the same. It just explains what the H stands for. I see a date, so dates have to do with setting, so I'm going to put, actually I'm going to use this one down here because this is like birth and death, so that's probably not going to be part of a story. Civil, and that also gives me like where it's going on pretty much, 1861 through 1865, and then I see Confederate States of America, so that's going to be my place. Okay, and then I'm going to scroll through and look for words that could be a problem, an outcome, and any unknown words. So I'm scrolling through, and I need to close that a little bit. There we go. I see plagued, infirmities. So those are going to be bad things. Infirmity could be an unknown word for you. So if it is an I can't even talk. An unknown word for you, it kind of means like problems with his body, sicknesses. I see annexation. I'm going to put that as an unknown word. And I see slavery in there, so I'm going to put that as a problem. And then outcomes are going to be more toward the end of the story, so I'm going to look more toward the end here. I see fall of Confederacy, and I see reconstructed. So those are what I'm going to put in my outcomes. So I have fall of Confederacy, and I can't spell, Confederacy, and what was my other one? Reconstructed. And that could be an unknown word too, so I could put that for you. It just means to rebuild something. And then I'm going to go back through and kind of look for unknown words. I'm going to put plagued here. Oops, wrong section, because I had that earlier. And this is supposed to be high school level reading. I think they use some big words in this one, personally. Advocated. And I'm going to pause there for a moment and see if I have 10 words or phrases. So I've got Alexander H. Stephens is going to count as one. Civil War, and then the years are going to count as another one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've got 10, so I'm going to stop there. And so first I'm going to look up these words to make sure I know what they mean as I'm reading, and I'm going to find a different spot for them on the chart. We had the boxes on our graphic organizer. So annexing something, especially a territory, well, that didn't help. So I'm going to look up annexing. So it means append or add as a part. Okay, so even though it's got some big words even in the definition, I can look at this one. Add or attach, so adding something. So I'm going to think that that could be part of the setting, actually, or problem. I'm going to go with problem. So they're adding something, and that could be a problem. Plagued, I already know what it means, but I thought it was a word maybe you wouldn't know, like infirmities, because it went along with that. So I'm going to look up plagued, and I get cause continual trouble. Oh, well, that's definitely a problem word. So I'm going to put that with problems. And then my last one is advocated. Oops, don't want to get rid of the words, unknown words. I just want to get rid of that. So advocated means publicly recommend or support. Oh, that sounds like a good thing, like an outcome maybe. So now I've put them all in the right spots. And normally you would take the time and just jot down the definitions too, but I'm trying to make a shorter video for you so you don't have to be stuck watching this very long, so I'm not going to do that. So then our next part, before we start reading, we have 2 more things to do. We are going to make a little prediction of what we think is going to happen. So Alexander H. Stevens, we have to use all of our words, was I already know this about him, so I'm going to put that in here. President of the Confederate States of America during the Civil War in 1861 through 1865. He suffered many infirmities, which means like illnesses and problems with your body. Infirmities, I'm going to add that it was caused maybe by the slaves who didn't like him. So they caused, and annexation means adding. He's suffered that. I'm going to add, so he suffered many infirmities that he was plagued by because of the slaves who didn't like him. So that just makes my sentence sound a little bit better, and I use one or more of the words because you want to use all 10 words in this. So I still have to figure out annexation. So annexation means add on. So maybe he was trying to add more states to the Confederacy. He tried to get the annexation of more states to join the Confederacy. And if you don't know much about the Civil War, that's okay. You'll learn more about it in Mr. Johnson's U.S. History class. And then the outcomes, we have fall, reconstructed, and advocated. So maybe he advocated, which means like promoted and supported. Reconstructing, I'm going to change it from reconstructed to reconstructing, which is okay, still the same meaning and verb, which means rebuild. The Confederacy, but it would cost too much money that they didn't have, which led to the fall of the Confederacy. So I reread my prediction. Alexander H. Stevens was the Vice President of the Confederate States of America during the Civil War in 1861 to 1865. He suffered many infirmities that he was plagued with, that should be with instead of by, because of the slaves who didn't like him. He tried to get the annexation of more states to join the Confederacy. He advocated reconstructing the Confederacy, but it would cost too much money that they didn't have, which led to the fall of the Confederacy. So basically you just reread your prediction to make sure it kind of makes sense and you're happy with it. So I'm happy with it right now. And again, if you don't know much about it, Confederacy was the group of states that pulled out of the Union and wanted to have slavery in their own states and spread it into the new territories like the states of Iowa and Nebraska. So then the last step of the probable passage before you actually get to reading it is that you come up with 3 questions that you want to know. So I want to know what caused Stephen's infirmities. Like, was it the slaves poisoning him or something, or was it something completely different? How did he try to get states to join the Confederacy? Because I have in my prediction that he tried to get the annexation, which means addition of more states. And I need to make a question mark because it's a question. And then my third one is going to be what led to the fall of the Confederacy. Was it him with the whole money thing, or was it something completely different? Because I'm just taking stabs at the dark. I have no idea. What led to the fall of the Confederacy? Okay, and then as I'm reading, if you remember, you try to answer your 3 questions and you see how your prediction compared to the real thing. So I'm going to read this now. Alexander H. Stevens, in full, Alexander Hamilton Stevens, born February 11th, 1812, Wilkes County, Georgia, U.S., died March 4th, 1883, Atlanta, Georgia. Politician who served as Vice President of the Confederate States of America during the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865. So far, that first sentence is true. Woohoo! Called Little Alec by his colleagues because he weighed only about 100 pounds, Stevens was admitted to the bar in 1834. And if you don't know, bar is talking about being a lawyer. Though plagued by infirmities, he rose steadily in politics, serving in the Georgia House of Representatives 1837 to 41, the State Senate 1842 to 43, and the House of Representatives 1843 to 1859. A Whig, which means kind of like the equivalent of a Republican, he urged the annexation of Texas and supported the Compromise of 1850 and the Kansas-Nebraska Act 1854, both of which attempted to establish criteria for the extension of slavery to U.S. territories. He defended slavery but opposed the dissolution of the Union. When Georgia seceded, however, 1861, he followed his state and was shortly elected Vice President of the Confederacy. So, double checking what I have, what caused Stephen's infirmities. It didn't really say, but it sounds like it was because he was kind of scrawny and maybe wasn't very healthy. And so it wasn't because of slaves like poisoning or anything like that. How did he get states to try to join the Confederacy? It didn't really say, it just said he urged them. So maybe he gave speeches or something like that. And then as I was reading, I saw that there were some big words in there that we might not know. So going through there, he was against the dissolution, which means dissolving, separating. So he didn't want states to come away from the Union, but he ended up being in charge of them. And secede means withdraw. So he actually didn't want them to like leave the Union and join the Confederacy. So that is wrong right there for what I had as my prediction, that he was trying to get them to join. And then our last couple paragraphs. Throughout the war, Stevens opposed the exercise of extra constitutional war powers by Confederate President Jefferson Davis, lest the freedom for which the South was ostensibly fighting should be destroyed. Holy buckets, we got some big words, huh? So, to all outward appearances. Okay. The policy he advocated was to preserve constitutional government in the South and to strengthen the anti-war party in the North by convincing it that the Lincoln administration had abandoned such government to the same end he urged. In 1864, the unconditional discharge of federal prisoners, Stevens headed the Confederate Commission to the Abortive Peace Conference at Hampton Roads, Virginia in February 1865. So basically what it sounds like is he didn't really want fighting going on, and he didn't want the South states to leave the rest of the country. Instead, he wants the people to be like, oh, Lincoln screwed up, and he's really the one who didn't follow the Constitution, is basically what it sounds like. And then our last one, I'll double check here. What led to the fall of Confederacy? We haven't gotten that yet. And we know that we're wrong about him trying to annex more states to Confederacy. He didn't really want to reconstruct the Confederacy. He just wanted to point out the flaws of Lincoln. Okay, so moving on. After the fall of the Confederacy, so it didn't tell me what led to it, Stevens was confined for 5 months at Fort Warren, Boston. In 1866, he was elected to the U.S. Senate, but was denied his seat because his state had not been properly reconstructed according to the congressional guidelines. He did serve again in the U.S. House of Representatives 1873 to 82, however, as a governor of Georgia 1882 to 1883. His book, A Constitutional View of the Late War Between States, second volume, 1868 to 70, is perhaps the best statement of the Southern position on state sovereignty and secession. Holy cow. So it didn't really say what led to the fall of the Confederacy, but it did have a little bit about that word reconstructing. So he wasn't supposed to reconstruct the Confederacy. Instead, after the war, it sounds like he was supposed to reconstruct his state, which was Georgia. That's the one where he kept serving. So it didn't sound like they ran out of money, at least in this particular situation. It's just that they didn't do it the right way. It said that they had guidelines they were given by Congress and they didn't do it. So even though I know this one had a lot of big words, this probable passage helped me a lot because first I kind of got familiar with some of the words in the text, and I found out there were a lot more unknown words, but this just let you click on it and it would tell you the definition, which was kind of cool and fast and easy to figure it out. And then I could clarify my understanding of it by checking what I thought was going on versus what really happened in the article. So that's the whole point of probable passages. It makes it a little bit more exciting to read something because I know this history is not super exciting. It helps you clarify words you don't know, and it helps you just understand the text better because you're looking at stuff from the text more than once, and it gets into your long-term memory a little bit better when you do that.